We signed a couple young kids the other day, Josh and Ethan, but they're still a little green. Um, I can say this. I'll just get ahead of the curve here. Will Bruin took a little bit of a knock in training, and his participation down there in Orlando is still TBD. So yeah, I mean the depth of the team is going to be important, but I have faith in the squad, and the tactics are going to be good, the coaching is going to be good, the physical preparation is actually very good. We've actually kind of counted the time that we had in preseason before our first Champions League game, and we've counted the days we've had the individual trainings in our first game in Orlando. We've tried to mirror some of the stuff we've done in preseason. So depth is going to be important, but I think we can overcome some of those challenges just based on what we've done and the senior players that we have.
Coach, Dave Clark here. You mentioned the depth and the five subs and some of those youngsters. Do you look at the somewhat compressed tournament with those bonus subs being a way to get some of the younger guys, to take care of that greening? They're no longer green if you can get them into games down there in the MLS's back tournament.
Well, yes. I mean, look, we're going down there to win games. It's not a development tournament for young kids. The kids have to earn their minutes. But Dave, what is going to happen is their window of opportunity might be a little bigger down at that tournament. And so I'm not going to be afraid to throw a young player on there if one of the senior players has heavy legs and you've got a couple extra subs and a burst of young enthusiasm, energy. They're going to try and impress the coaches. Sometimes that's a good thing to have in your bag, in your arsenal.
Hi, Jada. Hi, Jada. Just wanted to ask, how concerned or how much discussion you guys have had regarding the increase in cases in Florida. There's like 500 more reported today.
Well, are you asking me that, Jada, as a human being and a member of the United States of America, or as a soccer coach taking my team to Florida? Which version of that question do you want me to answer?
Both.
Both? Well, I'm
Yes.
concerned that there's not enough people in this country that don't understand that wearing a mask actually is a good thing. You see this sounder, a fan gave me this mask so I can be very PC down there in Florida. It amazes me that people think that it's an infringement of their rights that they don't have to wear a mask. I think that's crazy. From a soccer perspective, I am still personally okay with, oh, thank you, Michelle. Very nice. Thank you. I am still feeling safe about the whole process, Jada. We will be in a bubble. We will be limiting contact. The people that we do come into contact with will go through screening. Protocol. We want to talk about protocol. Again, maybe a little bit ahead of some of the questions here, but you guys saw the article in The Athletic. Our protocols are working. I mean, I am German and I'm pragmatic. I understand that there are going to be cases in the country. There'll be cases in MLS teams. There'll be cases with the Seattle Sounders, but the protocols that we have in place, I am okay with. And when we go to Florida, the message that I've been sending the players, because the other bit of news, which may or may not be true, I don't know all the details here, but the Orlando Pride and did they go out or where did they contract the disease? I mean, my message to the group is we are taking this seriously. We are going to make sure we apply common sense measures like washing your hands, not touching your face, staying in your hotel room when you're supposed to. Nobody's driving down to Miami Beach. I mean, we're going to take this seriously, Jada. So I feel still pretty safe about the whole process.
If I can follow up, yeah, I did see in The Athletic that you guys did have a player that tested positive, or can you share any more about that?
Well, No, we can't. We can't tell names or anything like that. All I would tell you is that it happened very early on at the beginning of individual training. Our protocol again worked great because we haven't had any additional cases. And so the player was quarantined. He did additional testing. The doctors have checked him over and he's back in full training with us. So again, it's just another, just another story for me that, yeah, this virus is serious. Nobody wants to catch it, but we do have to be realistic that if somebody does catch it, we need to have in place the proper protocols and the proper safety measures to make sure that nobody else is, affected, or we keep that count really low. So again, I think Chris Cornish deserves a lot of credit for that. I think our doctors deserve a lot of credit for that. I know you guys can't come out here at Starfire, but the way we're set up, how the players walk out, hand washing station, 3 times testing a week. I mean, we're doing everything we can to be safe.
Brian, your second match kicks off at 6:00 a.m. Seattle time. How do you emulate that? How do you prepare for that?
There is no way to emulate that. We're going to have to make sure that, a couple days prior, we're adjusting our breakfast schedule. Again, Adam Owen is our new head of sports science. He has a ton of experience with national teams, with the Welsh national team. He's fully aware of the training rhythm of a World Cup style tournament. And so I am leaning heavily on him to give us, what is the training rhythm? What is the training cadence? How do we make this, maximum benefit to the players? But that is going to be a tough game. There is no getting around that. The games, if you have a 10:30 at night game, if the guys' body clocks have adjusted already, and then all of a sudden you're playing at 10:30 at night, that day all of a sudden becomes long. So there are inherent challenges with this format for sure.
Hey, Brian, how are you feeling about the competitive nature of the team, given that, you're on record to saying you're going out to win this tournament, you're defending champions, without, but how are you feeling about the collective competitive nature of the team?
You mean from other teams in the league or our players?
Oh, I'm sorry, your players, Brian, just how are you feeling about their energy in terms of getting to this competition?
Well, I think the league has done a good job. The Champions League berth is, for maybe more of us coaches, maybe for the organization, that's a pretty big carrot. I mean, this is a pretty easy being, okay, maybe that's a bad choice of word. It's going to be tough, but it's a pretty direct, that's a better word, direct path to a Champions League berth. $1 million, getting the guys back playing. There are certain carrots that the players' own enthusiasm. I've talked to you guys about Nico Ladero. I mean, he's really hard charging, ready to go because he hasn't played this year yet. So I think there's enough internal and external factors to get the guys motivated to play.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, this is Alonso. Did you mention about Will Bruin? Can you hear me? Oh, a little bit.
Audio a little bit shaky. Can somebody help out here?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go for it.
Okay. So is Jordan Morris your second forward, and are you gonna be using Justin Dillon as a winger, like you've been using him in the earlier from the MLS season 2020?
Yeah, you can't look. Jordan can play up top. Justin can play up top. Will might make one of the group games. I mean, I'm not ruling him out. He's a very tough kid. He's anxious to get back at it because he actually, and specifically again, Will's injury was not his ACL. It was nothing serious. So I'm hoping to get him back early. So those choices, I can't tell you now what I'm going to do because we just have to wait and see what happens with the squad and, how those games look.
kind of on that topic, if I may, how did you, when you had players like Will and Gustav and Nico who had injuries prior to the shutdown or were getting back after or just as the shutdown was going on, how did they look in training, or how did that gap of time affect them at all as far as their injuries or where they're at right now?
Well, the guys that were dinged up or, had some minor injuries, the layoff has been great. I mean, Nico feels 110%. So for that purpose, for guys that might have been a little dinged up, I think you mentioned Gustav there. I mean, they're fully healed. So other than Will, that's the only guy who's questionable for some of the games.
Brian.
Hey there, Brian.
Go ahead, Nico.
I don't know if this has been asked already, but when it comes to the narrative of being the head of the group or the favorite going into the tournament in that specific group, how do you deal with it so the team knows that you got to get out there and just play the games, work hard, all of that?
Nico, that is a good question. I'm going to answer it very succinctly. We're not looking at ourselves as the favorites. We're not looking at this as, okay, we're the defending champs and we're just going to roll teams over. I mean, we're too smart for that. Our first opponent, San Jose, is a very, very good team. Now, they've had training restrictions that were different than we had up here. We've been able to do some group sessions. They've gone to Orlando early just to make sure that they can have full training sessions with their team. Does that give them a little benefit of the doubt, being in the heat, being accustomed to the heat? Who knows? None of these games are going to be easy. Not Vancouver because they're a rival. I know Mark Dos Santos is trying to improve on his record from last year. I mean, it's not an easy group. So, I again, Merritt Paulson tweeted out something. You guys probably all saw that. I mean, there's parity in MLS. And so you guys, maybe you do, Nico. Thank you for giving me a compliment. Maybe you think we're the favorite in the group, but we're definitely not messaging it like that to the players.
No, that's a good thing. Now, in terms of the few games that you guys had, it seemed that defensively there could be some improvements made. What have you seen out of Yemar Gomez-Andrade and Javier Arriaga growing as a pair to kind of take on that defensive responsibility in this tournament?
Both very good, and I'm also going to throw Shane O'Neill in there. He's a kid that played actually in Orlando. My center back situation is very, very good. Look, I was blessed with Chad Marshall, Roman, and Kim Ki-hee. I don't know if you could get a better, threesome in MLS, but these guys are getting close because what you do is you have a good balance amongst the three. So Yaimar is a beast. He's fast, he's physical, he's aggressive. Shane O'Neill is the same. He's very eager to prove that he can continue his career at the MLS level. He's at a, kind of on a couple of teams that didn't do that well in the standings. So he's eager, he's tough, hard as nails. And then you have Javier, who's more of a thinker, more of a passer. Gonzo loves that because we can play out of the back better with Javi. So between the three of them, I'm very pleased with what we have.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Coach. Good to see you, first of all. I had a question about one of the homegrowns that you guys signed, Ethan. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name.
Holy Jesus, Ari, look at your stash.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And the hair.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Wow.
I was waiting for that.
What's going on right now?
Wow.
Anyway, I won't be taking any questions on the hair today. So
I have several questions.
Here we go. I was wondering about Ethan. Not sure how to pronounce the
Okay, go.
last name.
Ari, I'm back. Sorry, just in my machine. I was so shocked. Go ahead.
Ethan, it seems what have you seen from him in training? I think he only has 7 USL appearances, which is less than maybe you see from guys coming up on Defiance. What have you seen from him, and how would you describe his skill set for someone who hasn't seen him play?
Well, look, it's a little unfair for me to give you guys a real in-depth, detailed report because, to be honest, I haven't seen him that much. When you look at the kid, number one, he looks at you, he looks at the coaching staff, he looks at Preki, he looks at Gonzo, looks at John Hutchison, and his eyes open like this because he's so eager to learn. I think the kid is so happy to be a pro on the Seattle Sounders. He's done great. He's done everything we've asked. He's been really good from a coaching perspective. On the field, you got to give the kid some time. And I say that because, look, he's good technically. He can find a pass. He's been okay in some areas. But usually when we match him up, he plays right midfield. And Nuhu Tolo has been playing left back sometimes. And so Nuhu's big and powerful. And I love watching that develop because Nuhu sometimes smashes on the kid, and Ethan has to pick himself up and say, holy smokes, this is what it's like to play against Nuhu Tolo. So it's kind of a learning curve for the kid, and we're just kind of getting a feel for whether he can stick it out. But so far, so good. The kid's been all right.
Hey, Coach, I don't know if I missed it, but is there a departure date for you guys? And I know you have like a 7-day window where you can go. And how will training change once you get down there as opposed to what it is now?
Well, I will tell you specifically, Chris, because I believe I can do so. If I can't, Alex, slap my hand afterwards. But we are leaving July 3rd. We're going to train and travel. So we're going to play our last scrimmage the morning of the 3rd. We're going to get on a charter plane, fly to Orlando. Then as soon as we land in Orlando, the very next day, we have to go through testing again. So we'll be in quarantine in our rooms the very next day. As soon as those results come back, they should be back within 12 to 24 hours. We will be allowed to start our workouts down in Florida. So, there's still some loose ends there, but we are definitely leaving on July 3rd.
Will the training change? How much more will you ramp up? I mean, you'll have a game. You'll have a game 6 days later then, right?
Yeah. So we have our normal look. We have it planned out. So we have our normal 4-day lead in. We have a 4-day lead in and then our game. So that's not going to change. It actually works out pretty good the way the schedule is. We just need to make sure we get on the ground in Orlando because, I feel bad for Grant Clark, our team admin. He's been doing so much behind the scenes, MLS in general. I mean, to pull off something this big, an event with 26 teams, the details, the level of detail in the testing protocols, the vetting of vendors, the training schedule, the game schedule, the TV. I mean, this is a pretty monumental undertaking by a lot of people, MLS staff, our staff. So, for me, when we get on the ground, Grant has to do a good job now pre-planning, but when we're in Florida, I'm sure we'll able to figure stuff out.
Coach, after over 100 days of having no live soccer in America, you guys are going to return to play. NWSL will be about halfway through their program. USL is starting theirs up. You're about to be overwhelmed with soccer that you generally follow both as a fan and as a coach. How are you going to fit all that in with the games yourself as somebody that I know you want to watch Defiance as they return in during your tournament? You always know what's going on with rain. How are you going to manage to do that with the compressed MLS's back schedule too?
Well, I mean, look, I'll be in a hotel room by myself, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to watch soccer. I mean, there was a big game on this morning, Man City. I mean, look, we all pay attention, Dave. We have software both scouting and both on for our game, for our coaching models, that I can look at any game in the world at any time that I want. So I'll try and keep up with everything, but obviously my job as a coach to get the team prepared is number one, and that's our focus. Me being a soccer fan, look, maybe at the end of the evening, I'm bored, I need to kill some time, I'll tune in to watch some film of our next opponent, or a game I want to watch. I actually give kudos to our organization. The games that they have presented so far have been pretty fantastic. Each game had a different storyline, starting with the inaugural game, this year's final, some of the classics, the 4-3 Dallas game. I mean, those were good games to rewatch. So I'll get my share of soccer.
Hey, Coach, I was wondering if you could, obviously, what you're doing right now to get training and get everything in before you guys leave for Orlando is a different kind of revamp and getting ready period than any preseason before. But I was wondering if you could maybe compare it to where you guys are at now during where you would be normally in a normal preseason in like January and February, and if the shortened preseason between 2016 and the start of 2017 has helped at all into your planning of kind of what you need to see done and when.
Good question, Michelle, because it's making me think of a good answer. I've learned from the 2016 to 2017 season certain things. But if I compare this season to what we're faced with now with COVID, I don't know if there's any real comparisons, because the training is just different. I mean, we've only gone to full field training for the last, I don't know what it is on my calendar, like 6 or 7 sessions. And so in a normal preseason, you have 6 weeks and you give them a day off here or there, but you got 20 to 25 sessions with your full team, with everybody. And you can do tactics from day one. A lot of teams start with a physical preparation and they move into the tactical phase. I mean, we really haven't had that. We haven't been able to really do some of the stuff that we would do in a normal preseason. And so, again, I forget who asked me the question about the quality of the games and being a favorite. I mean, look, the teams that are going to have success down in Orlando are the teams that are going to be able to be the fastest to knock off some of the rust, because all the teams are going to be a little rusty. We haven't played games in a while. The teams that have maybe the best cohesion on that particular day, because look, you have good days in MLS, you have some bad days, and you got to make sure you give your team every chance of having a good day, having the right cadence, having the right rest. The start of the game, how do you start the game? Do you keep good possession, or do you give balls away right away and then the players get dejected? I mean, there's so many things that are not normal that I just don't know how to answer your question, really.
Hey, Brian, you talked about taking this tournament with the seriousness and importance that it needs to. Do you approach the tournament as though this is the only soccer you're going to get this year or for the rest of the year? And do you impart that on the players with that approach, or are you confident you think there'll be some sort of season post Orlando?
Yeah, personally, I can answer that personally. I believe there's going to be some more soccer this year. I don't think this is going to be the only one. I hope that everybody, again, I hope nationally everybody understands that this isn't going away. We need to keep doing the good work to keep it, at a reasonable level until we can find a vaccine. So I'm hoping that people figure that out, that, look, it's going to be a new normal. But we're smart enough as a country, we're compassionate enough as human beings that we'll be able to do something for the rest of the year. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I believe that we are going to have more soccer after this tournament is over.
Hey, Coach, I'm sure you heard that the Cascadia Cup is not going to be awarded this year, most likely. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the fact that it doesn't look like that's going to happen this year.
Well, probably a bummer. because it doesn't give Vancouver and Portland enough time to catch us. But, one less year for them to catch up to us. But, I mean, that's one of the things that, I have a lot of empathy for the supporter groups. I've spoken on air in public about the ECS and them not wanting to play in empty stadiums. And look, I got a soft spot for those guys, all the fans down there in the South End, Gorilla, all those guys. It's a shame that some of those supporter things are going to be put on hold. Viewing actual games, Cascadia Cup, the camaraderie, the spirit of the day, the city coming together, the march, our supporters are going to miss that. So it's a sad reality, but, I'm sure when things are back to the new normal, Cascadia Cup will be back in effect.
Did we miss anybody? Any follow-ups for anyone there?
Yeah,
I have a question.
Ask Brian a question. But to follow up a little bit, you mentioned the mask issue. I'm sure you're like a lot of us that you said it's kind of frustrating to see people out there. But what kind of goes through your mind? I mean, do you think about, like not wearing a mask is what's going to keep us from having soccer? I mean, do you think about it that way?
I wouldn't, Jeremiah, I don't think it's that simple. I think this is a way bigger problem than just people wearing masks and not wearing masks. I think we have to change behavior as well. I think we have to wait out some of this and try and keep it at a minimum until somebody comes up with a cure or a vaccine. I mean, that's too big of a question for me to answer, but I think common sense, I'm a pretty pragmatic, common sense type of guy. Common sense is if I'm in a room with you, Jeremiah, and I don't want to get you sick, and I know that there's a 5% chance that I'm doing something that prevents you from getting sick, I'm going to make that gesture to you. And that's the way I look at my life. So when I go to the grocery store, I'm going to wear a mask. If I go to a restaurant, I'm going to wear a mask. I'm going to follow some of the common sense guidelines until we're further along in the process and we closer to a vaccine, more information about the virus. It's just, to me, it's just, I don't know. It just seems pretty easy.
Other questions?
Coach, just a quick
I got one
here.
more.
Oh. Go ahead, Diego.
Okay, I was just wondering, one of the interesting thing about this tournament is with the 5 substitutions and all these younger players that are hungry to get out here and show their qualities. Seattle has, Handwall and Danny Leyva. Do you see these kids with that same desire and want? Is there one specific more than the other that really wants to get out here and show their qualities in this tournament?
Nico, you were fading in and out, but I believe you were asking me about Handwalla, Leyva, some of the other young guys on the squad. Look, everybody is anxious to try and get back to playing. Whether there was COVID, a shortened season or not, young players are mostly all the same. They all want to get into the squad. A healthy environment in any pro sports club is you have a group of players who are the starters. You have a group of players that are putting pressure on those starters for playing time because it drives the competitiveness of the entire process. And so those guys always do that. Handwalla actually was pretty good the other scrimmage game. He had a goal and an assist. So they're all doing well. They all want to play. They're all doing the things that they need to do to be in contention for playing time.